Well, thank you all for having me. I wanted to especially thank my intern, David. He's been interning with me at Blue Startups for a couple months, and he's fantastic. He's one of your fellow students, so you have him to thank for my presence here today, because he basically made me do it. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Blue Startups, and then just give you some comments based on my experience here today and what I got to listen to from all the presentations, and which I thought were fantastic. So you guys should be very proud of the quality. I do a lot of judging of business plan competitions. I was telling David, I'm involved every year with the University of Hawaii Business Plan Competition and many, many others. So I think you all can be very proud of the quality of the competition you had here today. So Blue Startups, as was mentioned, is a venture accelerator. What we do is invest in cohorts of companies, so up to 8 companies at a time. For a specific period of time, they come into our offices and work with us. We provide a hands-on mentorship to them for 13 weeks here in Honolulu. We have offices in downtown Honolulu. We share office space with the Tetris company. How many of you have heard of Tetris? I'm talking about the video game, so yeah, you've heard of it. Everybody's like, what are you talking about, that Tetris? That Tetris is headquartered here in Honolulu, which very few people realize. And it is still a company, and it's still alive and well. It still makes a lot of money. The nice thing about that is my partners who own that company are able to give back to the community. One of the ways they do that is through the Blue Startups program, by providing new and ambitious young entrepreneurs with that chance to build their dream right here in Hawaii. So we started Blue Startups in 2013. We have brought 68 companies through that program. So we have now invested in 68 companies, most of them high tech, all of them scalable, global companies with global ambition, we like to say. Many of them doing quite well. In total, all of our companies have gone on to raise $100 million in venture capital funding. And we were ranked in the top 20 in the United States as far as accelerators. There are hundreds of accelerators out there, so we were very pleased, not only for ourselves, but for Hawaii, to get on the map in that way. We have an investment program where we invest up to now $350,000, used to be $100,000. So how did that happen? We just secured a co-investment partner out of Singapore called Hatcher. So that company is now going to invest alongside of us into each of these companies. So we're bringing a lot of capital into our ecosystem here, into the community, and trying to build companies that are scalable and, as we like to say, can be exported from Hawaii with the push of a button. We think that's a great business model for us as an economy, and a great business model for the planet in terms of our impact on the environment and things like that. It's something that's very sustainable and will create long-term high-paying jobs for all of us in our future. So that's Blue Startups. I wanted to just give you a few comments today about, again, what I observed this morning from the great presentations that we had. I thought it might be interesting for all of you to kind of step into my shoes for a minute and think about what I look for in a company that we're going to invest in. So for each of our cohorts, like I said, we have around 8 companies that participate in that cohort, but we review 300 to 400 applications for each of those 8 spots. So it's very competitive, and we see a lot of businesses. A lot of applications, a lot of businesses, a lot of business plans, a lot of business models. So the question is, what do we look for, and how do we select the companies that we select? So you, as an entrepreneur, how would you put your best foot forward when talking to an investor, right? So for us, what we like to say is we look for team, product, and market. So we're looking for 5 things, right? That means we're really looking at the team. The companies that we invest in are very early stage. They're very likely to not do next year what they said they were going to do today, right? That's what we call the pivot. Happens a lot at this early stage. Some of you have probably already been through that in your companies. You started off down one direction, discovered that's not going to work, had to move into this direction, thought about that some more, got some more information about the market, moved it slightly further this way, et cetera, et cetera. So you're really always kind of pivoting around, trying to find that sweet spot where you have what we call product market fit. So that's something that we're always looking for, because we can't really judge at that point in time, at that very early stage, whether you have a sustainable business or not, right? Well, we can only look at you as a company and think, is this the right team that can execute on this business model if they're given the right tools to execute on this business model? And are they the right team to then pivot if they have to, and change directions if they have to? So are they both, driven but flexible, right? I like to say that entrepreneurs are all delusional. We're looking for the ones that are just the right amount of delusional, right? So we want you to believe in your business, because if you weren't delusional, you wouldn't start a business, right? Because the odds. The odds are not good. You're likely to fail. That's the odds, right? You are much more likely to fail than succeed. So we're looking for that entrepreneur that believes in themselves. They have that confidence, right, that they're going to buck those odds, but not so delusional that they're going to do things like exaggerate the truth or make things up, or other, behaviors that are also very common in entrepreneurs. That's that fine line. That's the fine line, right? So I think coming back to the presentations I saw this morning, one of the comments I had back to the organizers as well was I would like to see more about the team, because that's really where we're at with these early stage companies, right? So we as investors are looking at is this the right team? If you're a doctor and you're developing a medical product, cool. If you're just a first year student studying sociology and you're developing a medical product, not so cool, right? You see how it makes a big difference with who is on that team. So we like to know a little bit more about that team. The other thing about that is just establishing credibility, right? So I want to know who you are right up front because of that credibility. If you tell me what you've done in the past, I can judge, well, that's interesting, or I better pay attention to this pitch, right? Because this person has some credibility in this space. And if you tell me something maybe less credible, I'm like, I'm not really going to listen. I'm already spacing out. I'm going to do something else and look at my phone, right? So establishing credibility, and your credibility in particular in the space that you are working in, is really important. I like to give this example of a young woman who told me she had a design idea for a new vending machine. I listened, I went, that's interesting. Does your dad own a vending machine company? She's like, no. I'm like, then you're not going to do that. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen, right? So it's really important that you have some background, something that you're parlaying into this new business. And it's really important that you tell people what that is, because we won't know otherwise. I think the other thing that's really important, I did talk about engendering trust. Once you establish trust with your investor or with your audience, it's really important not to break it. So again, the ways that we break trust in these kinds of presentations are by exaggeration, white lies, little things that kind of get you busted, right? And as soon as I'm like, that doesn't sound right, you've lost credibility with me, and I'm no longer listening again. The other thing that I love to hear from entrepreneurs is what their customers are telling them, right? If you were in the audience today earlier, you probably heard me ask that question a lot. What are your customers telling you about your product? Because there's no better source of information than that. No marketing study, no survey, no my mom likes it. None of that stuff is important, right? But if your customer is saying, I love this product, I cannot live without it, I'm going to tell all my friends about it, now you've got something, right? Hopefully more than one of those, right? If it's just one guy, maybe he's delusional. I don't know. All right. So I think I've covered most of the things. Oh, yeah. One other thing that's really important, we like to say, traction trumps all. So very often in our kind of pitch, we lead up to, and we just signed a deal with Pepsi. I'm like, now you tell me. That's really important. That's like the most important thing that's happening in your business. You should tell me that very first thing. So how much traction do you have? Your sales, your acquisition of customers, all of that should be right up front. Again, you're trying to get people's attention. That's the biggest, thing that you can do, is get people's attention when you're pitching, right? So I think that's all my advice. You're in for a real treat. Guy Kawasaki spoke at my last event, and he's fantastic, so I don't want to take any more time away from him. But again, thank you for inviting me out here. I really enjoyed the day, and you guys have some fantastic entrepreneurs and really great companies. Thanks.